Ladies, gentlemen, we're going to have a quiz this afternoon, and I will first of all tell you how the quiz works. It is an electronic quiz. The quiz is online, and you can follow this either on your phone or on your laptop. We have found that Firefox does not work, but testing yesterday, Double does. So if you go online, either use your phone or OS2 and Double, or some asterisk operating system with another browser. The quiz you can find by logging in to https://ahaslides.com, and then the capital I, not a 1, 85, capital MW. Or you can use this QR code, which I think you put on for people, the QR code. Okay, it's online, yeah. It's online. Once you've got the code, you should then see something like this screen on the right, which asks you to enter your name. Please use your full name, because otherwise, if we have 10 Gregs that win, we will not know which Greg it is. We're all Greg.
Roll back to the side.
Because I might have put the QR.
Oh, here, do it from the screen. It's probably easier. From here.
Okay.
Careful of the cables when you walk back. Once you've got that address, you should get on your telephone something like this, where you're asked to enter your name, and you can then choose an avatar if you want, or use the default one. How does the quiz work? When we've decided that all participants have joined, we will start the quiz. Up to that moment, you will not see much else, except probably the quiz hasn't started or something on the screen. Yeah? All questions in this quiz are multiple choice, because if people have to write things, people who are writing in English might have an advantage, and we don't want that to happen. Normally, there is only one correct answer, unless in the question we say there are multiple correct answers. Please note, once the question is displayed, you'll get a timer which will count down, and as soon as this is 0, you can answer the question. The quicker you answer, the more points you get. So if you answer immediately, for example, with the correct answer, you will get 50 points. After a certain amount of time, you will no longer be able to answer. If you haven't answered during that time, you will get 0 points. Nul point. 0 point. Yes, we're doing a bit of the Eurosong Festival. So the quicker you answer, the better it is for your score. Now what we're going to do is you will get 5 seconds after seeing a question to look at your telephone or laptop and select the correct answer. After the 25-second time expires, that's it. We will do a test question first, just so you know how it works, and that will be it. The test question will be, what is the capital of England? Something easy. And Manchester, good. Winchester. You will see.
I thought it was Londonderry.
You will see in your fields the options Londonderry, Berlin, London, and Amsterdam. You then select the entry which you think is correct. Okay, I wish you all good luck. Oh, and there's a prize. And the prize is, from Mark Noah, a 1-year software subscription for the winner. For the loser, it's a 10-year billing. Okay. So, I will now have to go over to the quiz itself. Where am I? No, it's this. Sorry for this. Why don't we see this one? I'll go full screen. I can see at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people have joined. Let me try and get this on the screen. What is it? Is it this one? Ah, yes. This is what I see. So we'll wait a little while to give more people chance to join. Oh, I'm getting... Anna Patricia loves me. She's sending me hearts. Not the other 9 guys just give me a thumbs up, but so we have 10 players. There's not a lot online then.
I hate to tell you this,
But
at least on an Android interface, it looks like your first question can be accessed.
that's
Okay.
yeah, well. That's life in these sort of tests. But you don't know the answer anyway.
You can access the first question, but can you then get to the second one?
Yeah, okay, that's true.
How long should we wait?
I don't know.
Only 11 players. It looks like there are none online.
Are we
There
supposed
are only
to
a few people online on YouTube, so
Yeah. What do we do? Wait?
We will be right back after these messages.
Yeah.
Here's a word. Maybe we
Here's a word from our sponsor.
maybe we can make the quiz, and then we repeat the quiz when
Hey, I know you guys, yeah.
bounces around a bit.
We've still got 11.
I don't think it will be much more. So.
No, well, we'll give it a couple of seconds, and then we will do at least the very first question. Let me have a look. Okay, and we're going to start, and you get first of all the dummy question. As you see, look at your device, and the question is, what is the capital of England? Come on, guys, ladies.
You don't have the Jeopardy theme on. You see the results met die
Oh, they will see it here as well, with a bit of luck. Time's up. Oh, you all got it right. Jesus. Congratulations.
It's going to be a competitive field.
Wait till we get to the end.
And here, this is the leaderboard in the same time, yeah? Oh, you're all pretty quick apparently. Okay. Now we go to the real first question. What is the maximum number of threads? Here you have the possibilities underneath. You can't click all of them on.
This is not multiple selection.
No, it's not multiple. Time's up. Ah, we have 2 people with the correct answer and all the rest were wrong.
Oh no, this is going to be a carnage.
Off my life.
For 95, you're going to be kidding.
That is the correct answer. That is the correct answer. And we checked it beforehand.
One less than 40, 4096.
Yes. And any complaints, Roderick.
To be shot before sunrise.
So only 18% of you got the right answer.
Buckle up.
Buckle up. What? Now we see who. Next question. Oh, it's great sitting here, isn't it? It's a feeling of power, isn't it?
All sweating.
Oh, they're all sweating now. You realise, Lewis, your name is going to be on it. Oh, only one got it wrong. Well, we know who.
We want to know who.
Oh, we'll get down to that. Yeah, shit, huh? Yeah. And for your information, we've told you this in previous Warpstocks. Won't say which one. You've got a choice of 4. You've got 25% chance, people.
Ooh.
Oh. Indeed, the directory command shows at the top the serial number of the disk. Next question. Let's go on.
The serial number or volume label?
Also the volume label, but it's a serial number. Hey, Sandra, you're rocking the longest streak, it says up here. Let's go to the next one. Dump, dump. Cannot.
Your knowledge is now out in public.
If
Question is not really phrased properly.
I know I don't do everything properly. But
Yeah, I use JFS on mine.
Right, it's not really phrased properly.
It's not phrased, it can be used. It's an incorrect
You
question.
need to format the RAM disk after boot.
Yes.
And it works just fine.
He checked the questions. Sorry, some things can be dubious, but it's all in good fun. Let's see. Hey, Lewis, you're up on top. Maybe you get the prize.
I'm hoping.
Okay, the next question.
Good one.
Yeah. Roderick, Hank, Richard, or Eugene?
Well,
What?
that's,
Oh.
none of those are correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, is there none of the above?
Why didn't you tell me?
I told you that.
No.
Didn't write it
I
down.
mean, I'm going to select the most correct answer. but-
Okay, then the next closest. Yeah, he's support. Yeah, correct.
Correct, maintain.
He maintains it. Sorry,
Yes.
but
Told you it was Ulrich Müller.
Don't worry, I won't tell Ulrich.
well, this way we make sure that not everybody gets it right.
Yeah, because you can't get it right. That's 2 in a row you got.
Hey, Lewis.
I'm so embarrassed.
But wait, we'll get you yet.
I can't remember what I put in the last question.
I do.
I don't know the answer to this.
It's
Not fully correct.
It's
That's all right.
six.
Yeah, I agree. Not fully
Actually, the
correct.
correct answer is not here either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
At the moment of writing it was.
No, it's not here.
It's not here.
Missing dot.
So it's missing a dot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct.
5.1.1.
Right, 511 is not 511.
It's, well,
Right,
This
I knew what you meant.
uh,
You
close.
actually gave it away yesterday because you referred to it as 511.
Yes, I know.
So when I saw 511 there, I thought,
I know. Well, it's to check if you were listening. It's all good fun. Let's have a look. He's still on top. Wait for a minute. We'll get him yet. More than one answer is possible in this. So you have to correct all good answers.
Does this include what we can download off the data?
No, it does not. Otherwise, I've added 10 others.
Languages are publicly available.
Publicly available, yeah. Let's see. No, who thought we had simplified Chinese?
We do. It's on the beta.
Who thought, yeah, I know. Who thought we had Dutch?
No, Dutch, really, with so many Dutch speakers.
Ah, yes, but we don't.
The important thing is that I did not select French.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Lewis is still on board. It's
I should have just observed and not participated.
no, it's good fun.
Start answering wrong.
Now, yeah, it's gonna. It's
It'll catch you eventually.
We go all the way to the end and then disqualify it.
yes.
If you end up as first, then they'll just disqualify you and then the second person gets it.
I don't think there's a C in it.
There's no C in that.
The question is also not correct.
Unless it's a different program.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's ASOC edit, association edit. Yeah, yeah, it's right. See. Well, pretty good. Who thought Steve Levine? But we can 2 people. We can see that who it was. We go. Anyway, we go to the next question because. Ha ha.
This is your captain thinking.
I'm going to get this one wrong.
Yes, horizontal. But you could also answer for the vertical, it's the same.
That was a complete guess. Oh.
Ah, got you, didn't it? It's 10.
We can 100 virtual desktops.
You can have 100, 10 vertical, 10 horizontal. It's strange.
I was just trying to visualize the screen.
Yeah. The problem is finding the desktop you're on. Let's see what's happened to the leaderboard. Oh, he's still on top. And Sandra, you're doing pretty well. Wait for it. We're going to have the next question is going.
Bjorn is just behind. So.
The next question is in Japanese.
But it'll be fun.
Yeah, I should have done one, shouldn't I? Yes.
Now the carnage starts.
Yes.
Ja, dat weet ik.
So we must do
I'm still writing in diapers anyways.
Oh, it's almost. Time's up. Let's see. Ah, 50-50. At least, well, between December 87 to December 86. You got the month right, guys. It's half a question. Oh, we're going to get you, Lewis. Don't worry.
Bjorn's picking up. He's stepping on it. Wait, but the last 10 questions. Oh, shiver.
This. So, what is NTLM abbreviation?
Is somebody texting answers to me?
Ah, somebody went for network trust level manager. I thought that sounded good. I made that up myself. It is new technology or NT LAN manager.
Reading it quickly,
Can you click on who selected it? Because
Oh.
that's
Whoa.
yes.
Well, Lewis is.
Alex is also in the
Alex is creeping up. Sandra, you got it wrong, I think. Greg, let's have a look who's. Jan, where's Jan? Who's Jan? Jan.
Jan van der Heijden. Oh, who's doing it from home?
Oh!
Mr. Faulty's failing.
Yes, yes.
Faulty, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes, it's full. Yes, exactly. Next question.
It's
It's gonna get better. And you should know this answer from last year. But it's also a question from last year. We had a quiz last year.
You should have looked at the video. Should have come.
The rest of the questions were not from last year, so looking at the video now won't help you. Time's up. In LVM simple.
I just feel like I should recuse myself from some of these.
Yeah, I probably should have just.
But who put directory /show?
I mean, didn't show the labels.
Yeah,
What
it
was
was it-
showing up?
Yeah, I know. That's why I put it in. But
Raven going down into the abyss of the ocean.
okay, let's go further. Hey. Oh yeah, sorry. Next question. What? I think. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Well, there's one missing a space.
Oh.
Oh, no. Either one is missing a space or one's got an extra character there.
Oh, not bad. You're getting better. We'll go to the next one. Let's have next question. Whoops. What happened there? Go back one. Yeah, I'm not sure if we had this question. Oh yes, we haven't had this question yet. But this was also told last year. The optimum word is by default.
Whoa, they're everywhere.
Yeah, it is 128, but that is the default that was set by Microsoft. For your information, actually, there is no limit by definition in the specification. But of course, like everything, it's going to be a big hard disk.
Oh, really tiny partitions.
Yeah. We still haven't got you, Lewis. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No,
As I said, when you end up first just disqualified, then the next customer takes. Giving yourself a free subscription feels a bit awkward. Here's the grand prize.
Now, they're really getting quiet, aren't they? They're not got to the stage of pulling their hair out, but
We're not there yet.
not there yet, but wait for it.
The answers here weren't particularly precise either.
yeah.
I sent you a corrected version. I mentioned it this one.
It should have been ESP,
Well,
but
what happens if you have GPD without UEFI?
Then you still have an ESP partition.
there are some crazy systems which can have GPT without EFI, I thought.
Well,
But then they have special other stuff, so we're talking in general.
Yeah.
you can do some awkward, unstandard hack by putting something in the NDR.
We're going to get you.
I should have included some questions about RSP and selectively installed for you. That would have
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Well, another.
Yeah. Yeah. Panic is setting. And Glenn, you're looking worried. Oh, it's just my normal face, he says. Okay. The /trash directory is in every disk, and it's hidden.
So who is it who uses their trash can as a backup? Person, clearly.
I think about 90% of the people go to the trash can to find out where did I just do it.
In my IT career, I've actually had 2 users that actually use the trash can as their backup device.
We're going to kill him in a minute.
We're getting closer to my questions. Let's see how the audience takes that.
Yeah, we're getting on to the more difficult, slowly but surely. These are just warming you up, guys. almost good, some of you. Yeah.
Who selected NTFS?
Come on, own up. We can find you. I got all the results here. But
And the spec does not say it has to be FAT32.
no, I know, but it is normally.
But the firmware that needs an external
It can be FAT16.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem is when it's.
Next question.
Oh, really?
You should know this one. Got him.
Oh my God.
Really?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I don't think that I got the right one.
Let's see, everybody's.
No.
Is there one? I got it.
You did?
It was the first one. Yeah.
First one's as good a choice as any.
Yeah. It's still it is. He's getting. Who's got the gun?
Come on now we're getting to my question.
Almost.
I stare at it often enough whenever I work on an ELD.
Sorry, but USB connection and then
What are you asking?
Yeah.
What
Oh, okay.
with the USB? What is supported then?
Yep.
GPT only if translate
Oh,
is
Oh,
available.
is it multiple?
Yeah. No, it's only one.
Okay.
Are you sure? Yes, it's
They
multiple.
look like
It's
big ones.
multiple.
It's multiple.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Got it.
But GPT is not supported on a USB
by
device.
connection, I mean USB A or.
No, no, no. But you see in the answers, there's no USB A or C or anything. So,
Yeah, so the question doesn't make much sense.
oh well.
What types of USB, what types of
File systems
partition, what types of partition media are supported for USB connection?
Yeah, I agree. But the problem is, then you get a question that is so long.
Yeah, okay, but.
Then you can't
And I
see
try
all
to
the
keep.
question.
Yeah, I
But
try to
actually
keep
you're
it
asking
simple
about
for
physical
people.
connections. Okay.
It's still there, but wait for it. Come on, guys. A lot is not on the answer on the answers.
You gotta think about that.
Alan must know this.
Anna doesn't do math on Sunday.
Oh.
Yeah. Hey, let's have a look. Who's in the leaderboard?
Wait a second, but they're all powers of two. It has to be that 24.
No.
Yeah.
Hey, Lewis, how did you do that?
He's 1,000.
I looked this up on the internet, and they call it 1,000. Next question.
The binary definition has always been 1024. I know that ANSI or ISO has
Next
tried to
question.
retroactively change it. You're trying to be a bit tricky there. When you're
Yes. But somebody fell for it. It's still there. We go on to the next one. Yeah, somebody gave the answer yesterday. I don't know who it was, but it's sitting in the corner with glasses.
just said
No, I
lots.
didn't say it. I didn't say it out.
Didn't you? Oh no, I said to you yesterday, don't
You
say
said
it.
Don't say it, so I didn't say it.
No, so the rest don't know. nobody thought 128. Interesting. It is 64.
But it's starting to work. Some people are dropping out like fleas now.
And that flies dropping down.
It's hard to imagine how many systems had 64 processors at the time the SMP kernel was developed, let alone
Yeah.
the
You had to
I
make
think
was
some
a 64
mainframe,
CPU
IBM
chips on it.
Yeah.
But were they running
Two or
OS2?
four was
Might-
on mainframe.
Might have considered porting it.
You know, probably.
I don't know if it's the question coming for how many CPUs was ArcOS kernel, OS2 kernel optimized.
Yeah. But probably what happened with this sort of thing, I know what happens when I'm doing programming. How many bits do I have over and I can use? And
Or something else. Right?
yeah, and 4 bits, of course, is easy. You don't use 3, so. But hey, good guys. You have all been now confirmed as IBM qualified. That we don't say, but you're qualified. Oops.
You're deemed an OS2 expert quickly these days. But they're compliant.
You have already answered this question.
Oh yeah, sorry. That's the trouble with the mouse, isn't it? Format. I always remember when voice type was announced and people were saying, well, if I'm at my desk and I shout out, format all, what happens to the rest? MPTS, guys.
I know who picked that probably. No? Who picked MPTS? You for M-install features?
I haven't touched that in
20
years.
That's good because you've done it wrong.
Guys, should the trap door under his chair open now?
I haven't touched MMOS2 in 20 years.
Next. That's the problem.
Not certain what the last
I was
OS
thinking,
word is.
I think you skipped now one.
I think so too.
What?
Sorry. Well, it's difficult to control the questions sometimes.
Just click.
If it's wrong.
Well, you skipped one.
No.
No, this is the one. That open should be OpenGL, by the way, not just open.
Oh, oops. But if you played Stardoll games, you should know this.
Yeah.
Who plays games?
Ooh!
Oh, somebody went for OpenGL. Oh, let's have a look on.
Yes,
I'm looking at. Well, then we don't discuss it.
Open. I didn't know it was OpenGL when I clicked it.
No, next then. Now we're starting to get to the real things, yeah? He's enjoying this as much as I am. We worked on this together to get some of the questions. Yes, it did. It is the setup command. It's still there. We go on the next one. we're getting.
Alex is on his heels.
No, I got that one right. I don't know why it's not moving them the last couple times you showed it.
Oh, it's because it's relative.
Never mind, let's see what to do.
On what operating system?
Yeah, what operating?
We're talking about Arca OS, surely. I was going to say Spark. Oh, it's only 2 terabytes. Sorry.
Yeah, the point numbers aren't changing. They haven't changed in the last several.
Yeah, they're not changing at all.
That's what, we all hit the limit.
Oh,
I don't know. It should add up more.
Or is that because how we went through the questions and clicked on start quiz? Did it stop?
Yes.
It maybe it started again, but well, the real stuff's coming. He says,
I hope I've got this one right.
the teacher is always right.
yes. Oh.
Really?
Yes.
211
Not 2-1?
No,
No.
211.
Okay,
Yay!
Success, guys.
Torpedo hit the bow.
So there, so it was 2-1, what it said?
Warp server for visas.
Ah, right.
They were having the problem with SAP, so they were just to 2.11, so they could.
Indeed, it looks like the scores. Sorry, guys. It's the first time I've done this with so many people. At home, it works. I got them all
If it's
right.
still logging the results, you can work it out later.
Yeah.
We're having fun. That should be a doozy.
Yeah. Yeah. More.
My button was working. I was much faster. My button wasn't working.
Visual age small talk. We all
I'm sorry. You need a new phone. Small talk. And the real answer is any minute now.
How many people fell for the trap? I'd like to know. I will, probably. Oh crap, it didn't work.
what was the trap?
I knew that.
What was the trap?
Well, what is the default compiler for Arca OS?
There is no default.
You expect you test the stuff on Open Watcom, I thought.
It depends on the application.
Yeah.
I mean, I build most of my stuff with Visual Age. David prefers OpenWatcom.
I use Visual Age as well.
I use GCC for some things too. But depends how you have it set up, really.
Yeah.
Ah, no.
You set it up.
Default.
Doesn't say default anywhere there.
Esoteric versions are not accepted.
Ooh.
Oh.
Even I know that answer.
It's getting to be.
The last one. Is that a rotten one?
Yes. I think so.
You put it in already.
I put it in.
Did you put your name as one of the choices?
Of course not. You might think it's right.
I don't actually know, but I know which one did not write a book, another book that I'm familiar with, so I'll pick that one.
Oh, Martin Sullivan.
Is it a good strategy?
And I know this is right because I took the answer off of my own bookshelf.
I didn't know the answer, but I recognize all of the other names as having written other books, so I was like, name I don't recognize.
Can we see the score back of all questions then? Because then we can see.
Well, we have effectively Alex and Sandra. On.
You have the questions not being counted.
I know. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
The only thing I
The ones that were counted were wrong.
I would also disqualify myself from winning, by the way.
then, in that case, Sandra, congratulations. Sorry about the scoring, guys, but you know.
Must be
And
because
I think
you
it
clicked
really
and
will
restarted it.
Yes.
Because after that it stopped working.
Yeah.
Oh well.
But
There's no button that you can press. to
File
see.
it as a bug report.
yeah, well, we could do it again and see how many people remember the right
Can you
answers.
close it now? Does it show a list of what was wrong or not?
I'm
If you scroll down. Now I'm dying to know. I want to know. Is there? No.
well. We know Doug C and Glenn Z. I like this.
What's that little thingy there at the top, or is that the QR code? That little thing next to join and that's the
This
QR
that's
code.
can have a
Loading
loudspeaker.
results.
Loading results.
Now it seems to be stuck.
Oh, okay.
No.
Hey, confetti. Yeah, I'm sorry that.
Maybe the US team this year can do a better job at getting this sorted out. Than we can.
Well,
Well, the problem is this isn't running on ArcOS.
I know.
that's the problem.
It's not ArcOS software.
I
Not supporting the more
did anyone do this with Double now? No, but we did try it yesterday. Greg tried it on Double and it worked.
Yeah, it works.
So maybe we could have even done this in ArcOS.
If it doesn't crash halfway and chew up your score results.
Okay, guys. Well, Sandra, congratulations. You get the prize. Lewis, commiserations for doing so badly.
Think how embarrassing it would have been had I not done well.
Well, I pressed the reset button at the right moment, right? I'll pay you later, yeah. I hope you all enjoyed it. It's a bit of fun. I'm sorry it didn't go quite as we had hoped, but that's life. And
we had at least the first virtual quiz that other people could join remotely. That's
Yes.
all I hear. The paper version was running behind with
yeah,
syncs.
yeah.
Maybe we'll do it next year again, but then in a better tested
But
format.
yes, we had started this search for a program. We were looking to find a quiz program that worked. We came up first with one called Kahoot, which is pretty well known in the Netherlands at least, because most schools use it for their pupils. The only problem was when we wanted to use that, we found out you could have maximum 3 questions, maximum 3 participants, and it was free. After that, you had to pay, and the problem was we could not just get a one-time subscription. So we switched to this AHA slides. I think you see it, it's quite nice. you can use it yourself. The number of questions and the type of questions, again, is limited depending on the number of participants, but you can do it on a 1 month subscription. You then have to cancel your subscription, which I will do tomorrow. But it is pretty nice. But you see some of the problems that when I scrolled too quickly and I went back and said start, it seems to forget. But that's if you know these quirks, then you don't do it. Because our problem was we did this and we're testing it, and of course every question you do correctly, so the points didn't seem to make any difference. But I don't think it took the fun away at all, I hope. Well, at least I hope not.
No,
Anyway, thank you.
thank you.
Ja. Ja, maar hij staat niet op het scherm daar. Oh, ja, oké. Rich, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. I'll do a short introduction. So, if you think that OS2 developers have evaporated, they've all magically disappeared, have gone in retirement, or have moved somewhere else, I still was able to stay in touch with some of them. One of them has become a good friend, Rich. He's now located in Pennsylvania. He's now just a year retired, enjoying his new life, which I think he's enjoying a lot. But he still has fond memories of his OS2 experience. That's why I carry this T-shirt. I still need to auction that, but a year later, I still haven't got around doing it. I'm still gonna auction the T-shirt, Rich, and the proceedings will go to a new browser. Rich used to work. What?
Should we auction off my Warp 3 beta and my PDK?
Sorry, dit kun je niet
Yeah,
horen.
yeah. We'll get started on the presentation. You can talk, you're on the speaker in the room, and then I suggest that we do answers afterwards. We have microphones that we can hand out in the audience here so that you can hear them. And well, this is kind of a trip down memory lane, what Rich did at IBM and later at ESS on some of the MMOS2 stuff. Actually, some of the stuff that he has is still directly and indirectly used in OS2 today, but he'll explain that. Rich, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining remotely.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Rich Durant. Hang on a sec. There we go. My name's Rich Durant. I worked for IBM from October of 1981 through February of 1998. The last 4 years of my career there, I was a member of the MMOS2 team. Originally, I was on the test team, but I was quickly booted off the test team and sent to work on the development team. I was working exclusively on audio device drivers and audio-related things, problems and so forth. And I was just, Roderick asked me to take a little time and just talk about some of the projects I worked on and how, you know, from my perspective, how things went. So, like I say, I joined the OS2 team in April of 1994 as a test lead in the multimedia test lab in Boca Raton, Florida. Hang on a second. There we go. Okay, so the first thing I worked on is a test tool called P2String, and P2String is a test tool. It was developed in-house, and it was developed to test multimedia drivers. I'm sure a lot of you folks are familiar with P2String. It'll read scripts, it'll parse the commands in the script file, and it'll package them into commands that are sent via the MCI string API down through the stack. It also would track the outcome of all the commands and create a log file for you, so you could actually do some automated testing. With a test case, you could do things like you could open an instance of the audio player, you could load a file into it, you could play the file, you could pause the file, you could stop the file, you could test seek, you could test play from to, so on and so forth. Personally, I didn't think that P2String was a great test tool, mainly because it was intended to test the device driver, and it was testing by sending packets down through the MCI SendString API, which meant that the command was traveling through the MCI layer, through the MMOS2 layer, and then it finally hit the device driver. And that's a lot of code to go through. And if something goes wrong, to say, oh, I know it's in the device driver. But IBM and the people that ran OS2 decided that that was the test tool they wanted to use, mainly because it was a lot easier to write than what I was what I thought they should have done, and I also didn't have a design in my back pocket to share with them. Later, IBM developed something called AP2, which is a PM-based app that will take all of your script files and package them up and let you pick a list of script files to test with. And P2 String and AP2, I believe, are available on the DDK in the test tools subdirectory. So right after I was working on P2 String, I only worked on P2 String for a couple months because they were having specific issues that they wanted me to straighten out. So I went back to working in the test lab full time, and I started working with an engineer named Joe Nord, who probably a lot of you have heard of. Joe was very big in the audio of OS2. And while I was working with Joe as a tester, Joe decided that the test lab was the wrong place for me. So he convinced management to send me into his department. So I went to work in the device driver group with Joe. Right after we shipped Warp 3, there was a lull in time where we didn't really have anything to do. Management was kind of running around figuring out what they wanted to do next. And so Joe came to me and he said, hey, I've got this idea for this thing I call generic WinOS2 support. So I worked with Joe and we put this together. I did most of the coding on this because Joe was busy doing other stuff. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with this. What we did on Warp 3 is the basis of what's available today. Basically, we wrote a Windows audio driver, and that Windows audio driver would open up a virtual device driver, and it would send commands from Windows down into the virtual device driver. There was also a Ring 3 app, WinAuDD.exe, which was launched as a run equals command in config.sys, and the daemon would come online and it would spin up a bunch of threads, and all of the threads would call down into the VDD, and the VDD would stop them on, I forget if it was a mutex or a semaphore, whatever the OS2 equivalent of a Microsoft event is. So it would basically suspend all these threads down inside the kernel, and when messages came through from Windows, they'd get processed by the VDD, and when it was time to set up and play something, the VDD would allow one of the threads to return to the daemon, and there was some shared memory, and the daemon would look at the message that the VDD had put there, and it would process the message, and when it was time to play something, it would play the file via something in MMOS2 called DART, which it stood for Direct Audio Real Time. It was a shortcut around MMOS2 that I believe Lyndon DeCarmo put together. And so this was an early attempt for a generic WinOS2 support, because even though everybody said, oh, if you have native Windows device drivers, it works great. In the 4 years I worked on OS2, I never once saw a Windows device driver at all, let alone one that worked great inside WinOS2. So we got this going. It worked okay. It had some bumps. It was far from perfect, but it at least kind of proved the concept. So after a little while, IBM had come out with a chip called the PowerPC, and they were looking for an operating system to run on the PowerPC. And so they came up with this thing called Workplace OS, or those of us who worked on it, we just called it Whoopus. And the Whoopus, or Workplace OS, was based on something called the microkernel, which came from Carnegie Mellon University. And the microkernel sat on the hardware, and it was the only thing that ran at ring 0 privilege level. And the operating system would sit on top of it, much like the concept that Microsoft used to call the hardware abstraction layer. And the design intent was to have the ability to run multiple operating systems on the same hardware, not like a modern day hypervisor, but actually you would bring up the microkernel and you would boot whatever operating system you wanted to run on top of it. And the initial targets were AIX and OS2. And like I said, the kernel was the only thing that ran in privilege mode. Everything else ran in user space. So wait, wrong button. Oh my gosh, I'm lost. What did I do wrong here? How do I go backwards? Hang on a second, gentlemen. I've lost my place. Where is? Okay. I can't find. Hang on. Every time I hit the mouse, it. What? Page up or page down? Brilliant. Okay, yeah. Thank you, whoever suggested that. Okay, so okay, where was I? Oh, okay. So what I was assigned to do was I was assigned to develop device drivers for the analog devices 1848 and the crystal semiconductor 4232. And these device drivers were kind of unique because, like I said, they ran in user space and you had to call APIs to actually get to the hardware. So we developed these. They sort of worked, and we moved on with life. And the next thing they said was, well, gee, you guys had this really cool idea for generic WinOS2 support. Let's see if we can do this support inside Workplace OS. Now, the cool thing about both the cool thing and the horrible thing about Workplace OS is that the entire operating system was running in user space. And so you could call from the OS, from a WinOS2 session, you could call down into what used to be ring 0, and it was just a call to another process. So it was very quick from that perspective. So what we did was we took what we developed for OS2 3.0 and we added an interface between the VDD and the OS2 audio device driver, and we would send the data that way. So we had the same Windows driver, and we had a little bit different VDD, and that VDD would open up an IDC with the virtual device driver, and we would do WinOS2 this way. Now, this performed extremely well. And we were really happy with this, and we decided, okay, maybe we're onto something with this particular design. Okay, so IBM finally came to their senses and realized that Workplace OS was a really dumb idea. And mainly the reason they came to that conclusion was because the AIX people said, we're not writing AIX for this mock kernel. If you want AIX to run on the PowerPC, just tell us and we'll port our operating system to the PowerPC. So the performance on it wasn't all that good. It was okay, but for as fast as PowerPC's chips were, it should have been lightning quick, and it wasn't. So they dumped Workplace OS and decided to move forward with Project Merlin, which was later called Warp 4. And a very important part of Project Merlin was the embedding of voice type dictation into it. Voice type was a tertiary product that IBM had developed, and it was a product where you, much like Alexa these days, you had a microphone you wore, and you would say commands, and the system would figure out what you wanted, and it would go do it for you. But it wasn't working. And also at this time, IBM moved all of their development offices out of Florida, and OS2 was sent to Austin, Texas. And so I moved to Austin, Texas, and the first day I go into work, I get told, "Yo, voice type doesn't work. We have a big problem. You need to fix this problem. Go talk to the voice type engineer." So I go talk to the voice type engineers, and they tell me, "Oh, we need 10 millisecond buffers of 2205 cycle per second wave data, and it needs to be 16-bit mono." And they said, "Hey, we're getting 100 millisecond buffers, and this just ain't working, and it's messing up our engine." So I kind of chuckled, because anybody that knows anything about how a device driver works knows that this diagram here is pretty much out of the MMOS2 device driver reference manual, and it's how they tell you to manage your DMA transfers. They say, allocate an 8K buffer, start the 8K buffer up, and have your hardware interrupt every time you process 4K of data. Well, if you do the math on this, you're going to find out that means we're going to get 44,100 bytes per second, and out of a 4096 byte buffer, you're going to get 92.87 milliseconds, which is about what they were telling me to get. But what we really needed was we really needed 10 millisecond buffers, which would have been 441 bytes per interrupt. So we had to re-engineer all the stream handling of all the OS2 device drivers, and we had to change it from use a buffer this big design to a design where we said, okay, what we really want is we want to size our data so that we get 10 millisecond interrupts. And we had to go through every driver and do this, and every driver was different. We did come up with some common algorithms once we figured out where in the driver the change needed to be made. And a very interesting secondary effect of making this change is that it instantly improved the video audio synchronization inside video playbacks in MMOS2, because they were using the timestamp that we passed back at interrupt time to do their timing. And so they went from having 100 millisecond timestamps to having 10 millisecond timestamps, and that helped a lot. So we got through this, and I don't remember how long it took, but it didn't take the entire length of the Merlin the Merlin thing. So we finished up, we got Merlin done, we shipped Merlin, and after Merlin, I was visited by the OS2 evangelists. IBM had a department of people that they called evangelists, and their job was to go out into the computer industry world and find ways to get people to use OS2. And they had a guy, his name was Brent Davis, and Brent was the multimedia evangelist. And Brent was very involved in what audio in OS2 looked like. And so Brent came to me and he said, "Look, we have 3 audio physical device driver samples. We have the PAS16 sample, which is the PAS16. I don't know if anybody that's looked at it probably says, what the heck is this? It's very hard to follow. It's not well designed. It's not well constructed. It's not modular, and no one that we were aware of used the PAS16 sample to develop a driver. They then brought a guy on named Dick Ham, and Dick was an expert in object-oriented design. Even though we were using C, so he didn't actually have objects. He developed the Analog Devices 1848 sample, which is very modular, it's very logical, it's very laid out, and it was actually used by a few vendors. ESS used it for some of their early, 1600 series chips. And then Joe did, there was a last minute add to Warp 3 with this card It was called the MAD 16 card. I don't remember who the manufacturer was. I'm sure if we went and looked through the source code, we could figure that out. They wanted to bring this card on board and get it into Warp 3. At the time, I didn't know why, and so Joe was the main developer on this driver. I did help a little bit, but Joe did the lion's share of the work. And I found out later that the reason they wanted to do it was because they wanted to get device driver developers to move to the Watcom compiler. And so that was the reason they did that. But anyway, what Brent wanted was us to develop a new DDK sample model that separated the OS2 function and hardware implementation as much as possible. And so the driver would need to support wave, playback, and record. It needed to support MIDI, OPL3 MIDI, MPU 401 MIDI, and they wanted it to support the Mixer-I octals, which existed but nobody used, so that their Warp Mixer app, the Warp Mixer app was it was developed with the Visual Age compiler. It was a fancy, pretty Mixer app like all the other Mixer apps of the day. So we went off and looked at it, and we decided to use the Turtle Beach Central Pay card because it supported all the functions. It had a Crystal Semiconductor CS4232. It had a Yamaha OPL3 with a YS225 synthesizer processor, and it also had this thing called an ICS 2115 wavefront synthesizer, and that thing sounded awesome. I mean, it was one of the best audio card based synthesizers I had ever heard. It wasn't the best of all of the cards that we looked at for this project. There was a card that was made by the synthesizer company Kurzweil that had an amazing sounding MPU 401 processor on it. The problem was the Kurzweil card was really expensive, and we didn't think that anyone, that was going to use this and look at it. We expected that they would buy a card and try it out. We didn't think that anyone would touch the Kurzweil card because it was so expensive that when we were done evaluating it, they made me send it back. So we decided to use object-oriented design and C++ objects, and we did that because object-oriented design, well, there's two reasons. One is that object-oriented design and objects allow you to create function. You can use inheritance, and you get all of the benefits of object-oriented design and C++ classes. And we also decided to use the Watcom compiler, and we were probably going to use the Watcom compiler anyway, but one of the things we noticed in the early days of looking at this project and creating some test C++ classes was that the Watcom compiler called malloc when you created an object, when you did a new command, and it called free when you did delete command. And we thought, wow, cool. We can just write our own malloc in free. So the first thing we did on this project was we wrote a little heap manager so that we could do new and free. This was particularly helpful because a playback stream or a record stream was an object that we developed. So we developed this. It was a pretty big project. We had a year to do it. I did most of the development myself, and then for the last 3 or 4 months, they brought in a coworker, a guy named Kip Harris, to help with like the resource manager, stuff that I didn't understand, the resource manager and stuff like that. Kip was a very experienced kind of guy. I like Kip a lot. Haven't spoken to him in years, but we're always on a good, we always had a good friendship. And so we released it on the DDK, and I know that the sample code was used by several people. One of them was myself. when I left IBM, I went to ESS Technology, and I used the sample to develop OS2 device drivers for at least 3, possibly 4 of their chips. And the other thing it was used for was it was used by the people that put the ALSA driver together that you guys all know and love. And so this sample kind of lives on. And the object-oriented device driver was the last official development I did while at IBM. But there was one other thing that we did work on. We worked on the WinOS2 support for Warp 4. Kip and I worked on this. We were both kind of intrigued by the whole process, and we spent a bunch of time working on it. And we made some changes that never went anywhere. We never put them in the library, so pretty much nobody knew about them. And I went to work for ESS, and I was developing OS2 and Windows drivers for ESS. And I was contacted by a gentleman named Dr. John Gao. And John told me that he was really interested in this WinOS2 stuff, and that he was looking at the code, and it was really confusing. And I said, oh yeah, dude, the code that's on the DDK is not really the best. So I sent John all of the code that Kip and I had developed, and he and I had several discussions about how this should work. And John went off and developed the DTA based on this code. Probably 99% of the DTA is John's code because it, like I say, it was a little wonky, the support that we did. But about a year into my career at ESS, my boss came to me and said, we have a really, really big project that we're in the running for. And the only thing that's holding us up, I believe it was a solo for our solo chip. He said, the only thing that's holding us up is that the company that we're bidding against claims they have something called WinOS2 support. And we need WinOS2 support to get this bid. What do we have to do? And so I said, okay. So I explained to him all about how this generic support worked. And I said, what I have from my work at IBM is probably going to take quite a bit of time to get it working reliably. I said, but there may be another option. There's this guy over in Europe named John Gao who's actually working on this. And my understanding is he's really pushing this project along. So ESS contacted John Gao, and we actually struck up a deal with him whereby we paid John to license his WinOS2 technology to ESS. And I talked my boss into just writing John a check. I said, look, do not, we don't want to ask for any exclusivity on this because John's doing a bigger project here. So that's the other thing I worked on that's still alive and well is WinOS2 support. And that's really all I had prepared. So I'll stop sharing my screen. And if anybody has any questions about anything, granted this was almost 30 years ago, but if I can, remember the answer, I'll be happy to share it with y'all.
That's the first time I've seen you. Last time I saw you was 20 years ago in Florida, I think.
Yeah, right in the early 2000s, right after Kathy and I moved back there from Austin.
Okay, I need to switch mics.
Wait, we have some technical stuff here. This is not a professional studio setup.
I wish.
Thank God for that.
Where is the microphone? Room, yes. Okay.
Ja. Die moet ik gebruiken?
Ja.
Are there any questions? Maybe this was a bit deep dive into the back end, but here you can see how technology can live on, like the Saint-Tropez driver. We're still using it. In fact, the current ALSA UniOut build is still being compiled and updated recently. There's a new beta version out. So the code lives on. Some people use the version of John Gao, his WinOS2 driver. And, well, there might actually be more to be revealed later. Let's put it like that. Sorry? Well, you know what? I'll open up this little curtain. This guy is trying to get the stuff working for V-Sound, for the Sound Blaster stuff, because to get into the weeds. The Sound Blaster support is going to require some pretty low-level stuff in order for games to get a good response. I mean, sometimes you know, John, you know, Rich, how timing-sensitive DOS games are for getting proper access, getting an adequate response to make certain that audio works well. I guess you can attest to that, how problematic it is.
Absolutely, but the design that you put in place, best I can tell, is solid, and it's just going to be a matter of, you know, finishing it up and you know, going in and seeing, you know, what the problems are and where they are, and going from there.
Yeah. So there exists a driver that was done by Martin Kiewitz, the V-Sound driver, and that's basically a skeleton. But then Kiewitz dropped off the scene, but he did left the sources. And there's a large portion of code already in there to hook into the current DTA. By the way, if you want to use WinOS2 support, there is a package of one of the older versions of the DTA from John Gao on Hobbs. So you can basically install this on any system with UniAud, and it will work with any audio card. Is it perfect? No, there are some bugs outstanding, but it does the job. That same data path can then be used for DOS games. And then basically it talks directly to the audio card and the V-Sound driver. But there is a long road ahead before that all works. So you had a question, Alex?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is a slightly esoteric question, and I don't know if anybody really knows the answer, because I think it's something that's gone through like different sources. But I came to OS2 fairly late in the game, and my early years were a lot of struggle finding a good audio card with good audio drivers. And my first few years in OS2, everybody was saying, oh, you need a Crystal Semiconductor card. They are the best. They have the best drivers. And the reason they have the best drivers is, one of the reasons is because IBM helped with the design or something. And also because they used like this special model with like small audio buffers. And then a few years later, when the world kind of switched to UniAud, the prevailing wisdom suddenly flipped over and said, oh, no, you need an audio driver with large audio buffers. The Crystal cards are no good. So I was wondering if you have any knowledge of what might be behind this kind of philosophy change, or if you have any, even if you don't, if you might have any insights as to what might be going on here.
Okay, well, what I'll say is this. The Crystal Semiconductor codecs, the 4331, the 4332, were very good codecs. And one of the things that made the Crystal Semiconductor OS2 drivers the best of breed was the fact that when Joe Nord left IBM, he went to work for Crystal Semiconductor. So all of the OS2 support that Crystal Semiconductor did was done by Joe, who hands down is the most experienced and knowledgeable guy when it comes to OS2 device drivers. And by the way, Joe and I are still friends. Joe and I still work on projects together. What Joe did with WinOS2 support for the Crystal Semiconductor stuff was, and by the way, you're correct about the small buffers. Joe was always a proponent of using small buffers, especially once he realized that it greatly enhanced audio-video sync. But Joe, the Crystal Semiconductor stuff was probably almost as good as the ESS stuff I did. But just kidding. No, Joe Nord, Ken Lee, and Dave Popkin were all members of the OS2 device driver development team. Joe did audio drivers, Ken did video drivers, and Dave Popkin actually designed video cards. And those three guys all left and went to work for Crystal Semiconductor. I don't know why they would tell you that big buffers is the way to go, because like I say, it's really not really what you want, because the OS2 device driver, when it's doing a playback, is actually the time tick that MMOS2 uses. I would think you would want to use small buffers. Maybe they were saying we want to use big buffers because they had some throughput issues and their interrupt service routines weren't quite what they needed to be, is all I could say.
Yeah, I may have something to do with, and this is just a guess on my part, it's possible it might have something to do with the fact that a lot of the audio applications we're using nowadays are Linux ports, and they're often like monolithic multimedia applications that are designed in kind of a different driver architecture originally and then ported. I don't know if that's a reason.
It certainly could be if you're doing direct port. I did notice I had the opportunity to look at the ALSA driver at one point in time, and I noticed there was a lot of Linux-ish stuff in there. One thing that I found particularly bizarre was they used something called a Jiffy, which is some timing thing. I'm not a Linux guy. Not that I don't like Linux, just because nobody was ever willing to give me money to do something with Linux, so I just never learned it. It is very Linux-like, and if the apps that have been ported from Linux to MMOS2 try to keep the Linux multimedia subsystem design and structure, I can see why you would have some definite problems there.
All right, thank you. That was very interesting.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for the question.
Sure. There was also a question asked on YouTube, and I'll relay it here. He says, this might be a silly question, but has MMOS2 ever had multi-threaded audio?
Multi-threaded audio?
Yeah.
Meaning, I can't answer to the threading model of MMOS2. I was not involved in the design of that at all. I'm not sure if the question is multi-threaded or multi-stream.
Yeah, Rich, I think it is. The thing, and I think I can answer the question. I don't know if it's broken. One of the requests indeed that I've heard coming along, does MMOS2 support multiple audio streams? And the reason that people stuck to the SB Live driver from Sander van Leeuwen is because that one apparently can play, for example, an MP3 file and a system audio sound at the same time. But most MMOS2 drivers are configured somewhere in the MMPM2 ini file to only accept one audio stream at the time.
Yeah, indeed, there's a correction here, multi-stream.
Yes, it's multi-stream.
Yeah, the answer is there's nothing in MMOS2 to prevent you from doing multi-stream. However, as far as the native device drivers go, I think the Saint-Tropez driver can do multi-stream. I'm not aware, Roderick, you say there's a setting in MMOS2 to disable multi-stream?
I remember from my gray old brain cells by now that maybe more than 20 years ago there was a discussion on the PDD list of Timur Tabi for somebody else that tried to set it up, and they're in one of the resource DLLs that minstall uses, some are switches flicked so that it can go from single stream to multi-stream. It's buried somewhere.
Yeah, I do know that there's there's a capabilities array that's buried deep down inside the driver that somebody queries. I forget if it's the stream handler or MMOS2 itself, but there is a capability call that allows you to tell OS2 how many unique playback devices you have, and most drivers set that to 1. I think we allowed for multiple. I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure.
There's nothing to stop you from doing it. It should work.
I'm pretty sure that the old chipsets, like the CS24, 23, only had a single wave output. Nowadays, I think the Intel chipsets have like 4 audio streams that you can play simultaneously in hardware, but the older chipsets only had 1 stream. So any mixing had to be done at driver level or software level. So that's, I think...
Probably Rüdiger Ile, who wrote Emperor TV, Capture for Hauptcard and some others, did also CS audio drivers, and probably he was also able to do this special function in software, or that special chip had 2 separate audio that could be hardware mixed.
I think that was a C media driver that out there. Anyway, somebody needs to make a mental note, and I'll look at it after Hobbs again. This topic has been resurfacing several times. Maybe Lewis can ask David. There is maybe a reason it is disabled. I also seem to recall that maybe in MCP, the multi-stream support got broken. But I know that on Ecom Station, which is MCP based, people also use the SB Live driver. I know Gerrit Schoenmaker at home uses his system with the SB Live card because it has multiple audio streams. So apparent Arca OS should in theory then be capable of doing it. The infrastructure's there, it's just if the audio driver supports it.
Well, it might actually be the audio chip, Roderick. Audio chip manufacturers, well, there really are none anymore. The only audio that's basic, as far as I know, the only audio that's produced today is the high definition audio spec that Intel put out. And I don't know how many streams it allows. I haven't looked at that spec in quite a number of years. But there's really no incentive for audio device manufacturers to enable multiple streams and to, in fact, add hardware to support multiple streams, because no matter how you feel about it, 99.9% of the computers in the world are going to be running Windows, and the WASP subsystem that Windows introduced with Windows Vista does all of that mixing inside the Windows audio API.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
1 second.
Oh.
Come here. Flex. Stop. Okay.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Rich, I finally could see you again after 20 years, so that was good to see you again. So you were the last presenter at Warpstock.
Okay.
I guess also that's like to thank you for popping in. We might hear more from you, I don't know. I'm certain we will, based on what we discussed. Thank you for making your presentation with your busy retirement schedule. I told you a year ago you would be busy, no problem.
Well, fortunately I didn't have a show last night, so I was able to get up early this morning.
Okay. Also, this is then...
Can you hang up?
Yes, you can go then. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Who would have thought in 2025 you still give a presentation about OS2?
That's kind of remarkable, actually.
Yeah. Richard, thanks. I'll see you online and we'll talk later.
Okay, thanks. Bye, everybody. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you. And with that hang up, I'd like to thank all the people who came from across the Atlantic. Louis for popping in. We have David Oakford. We had Glenn coming over. Thank you for your presentations, Greg. So thank you for popping in. I've lost track how many Warpstocks I did. Thank you for the people online. Thank you for helping to keep OS2 alive as a community. And this was Warpstock 2025. This is Amersfoort saying thank you and see you next time. Signing off. Thank you for coming.